Our story is finished. I survived. It was a quick book. I like these because it's a lot of action, lots going on, what's going to happen, but you get to learn something too. But what's also cool is at the end of the book they give you some facts and information about the real events. We're going to read some of that about the Great Molasses Flood of 1919. Hello, readers. It was one of you, an I Survived reader, who suggested that I write about the Boston Molasses Flood. How cool is that? Actually, one of the readers came up with this idea. Like most people, I've never heard of this strange disaster, but of course I was curious. It seemed almost funny, a flood of sweet syrup. Some articles I read had silly titles like The Sticky Tsunami and The River of Goo. But as I began researching, I quickly understood that there wasn't anything funny about this deadly disaster. It was tragic, horrifying, and terribly sad. 21 people lost their lives, including 2 children. Many of the approximately 150 people who were injured never fully recovered and suffered for a long time as they lived. What made this event even more tragic was that it could have been prevented. This wasn't a natural disaster like a tornado or a hurricane. The Molasses Flood was a man-made disaster caused by people who made bad decisions. That tank didn't just naturally sprout up in the middle of Boston. People decided to put it there. It wasn't the tank's fault that it leaked. It was the fault of the company who owned the tank. They didn't test it properly after it was built to make sure it was strong enough to hold more than 2 million gallons of molasses. They didn't listen to warnings that the tank was dangerous. They showed no care for the men and women and kids who lived and worked in the shadow of the tank. It's pretty messed up if you think about it. And really, they are what this book is about. Like all the books in the I Survived series, this book is the work of historical fiction. That means all the facts are true, that's the historical part. The fiction part is the characters who are from my imagination. But these made-up characters are based on real women and men and kids who lived in Boston's North End at the time of the Molasses Flood. People I learned about in my research. They were mostly immigrants, people who moved to America from other countries. The vast majority of those living in the North End at the time came from the southern part of Italy. That's cool. They left behind everything and everyone they knew. They crossed the river to start their new lives in a strange land, America. Between 1880 and the 1920s, more than 23 million immigrants came to America. Of these, 5 million were from southern Italy. We knew that. Some of you reading this book are new immigrants. You know exactly what it's like to leave behind the country where you were born. You say goodbye to your home and friends and school, to move to a strange country where you have to learn a new language and customs, to make new friends and eat new foods. And if you're not an immigrant yourself, chances are someone in your family was. Because unless you're a member of the Native American tribe or nation, someone in your family was born somewhere else. They came to America by ship or by plane or on foot, hoping to build a better life in America. If you are African American, your ancestors most likely didn't choose to come to America. They were captured in their homelands in Africa, brought to America in chains, and forced to work as slaves. Do you know the story of how your family came to America? If you don't, ask your parents or another relative. I wish I knew more details about how my relatives first came to America. The story I know best is about my great-grandmother, Elizabeth Yasnitz Rosen. She immigrated to America on her own in 1909 when she was 13. Can you imagine traveling across the ocean when you're 13? She came from Russia, where, because she was Jewish, she and her family faced prejudice and constant threats of violence. Her journey to America was difficult. She arrived with no money, no English, no understanding of America. She lived with her older sister Bessie, who had come a few years before. Their home was a 2-bedroom apartment in a crowded and dirty neighborhood, very similar to the one Carmen and Papa moved to in Boston's North End. Elizabeth went to work at the factory at the age of 13. Her life in America was extremely difficult at first, but like Carmen, she slowly set down roots and came to love America. If my great-grandmother hadn't found the courage to leave Russia and come to America, if she hadn't been welcomed here, I would not be alive today, and I would not be writing these words to you. Thank you for taking this trip back in time with me and for inspiring me through the hard work of creating these books. It's pretty cool. I feel like I know the author a little better. I hope you enjoyed I Survived, and pick up one to read for yourself sometime.